Oops.
That was... Don't get that. Oh, God. Hello, my name is Joshua Haas. I am a traveling enologist. I've been in the wine industry since 2015. I am from Minnesota, the northern part of the United States, right next to Canada, land of lots and lots of lakes. Very, very cold there, but not too much wine. And then started traveling in something that we call harvest hopping. So I'll do a vintage in the northern hemisphere, then do a vintage in the southern hemisphere. That's a great way that I've found to really experience the diversity of wine around the world and learn so much from so many cultures and so many people all around the world, and just be a part of the communities of wine. I've just completed my 11th vintage. This 11th chapter of my traveling winemaker career took place at the Ciacca winery with a grape varietal that I've never heard of before, which is exactly what I wanted. On my journey of vintages in the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, this particular one, my 11th vintage, is here in the south of Italy, in the region of Lazio, in a tiny little valley called Val di Comino. And here we are in Val di Comino at Ciacca winery. Ciacca winery is 6 hectares, which is honestly relatively big for this region. Most places are very small, just backyard vineyards, but we've got a pretty organized system here, which is really great. Ciacca winery is a natural wine producer, all organic fruit. Incredible biodiversity here, to be honest. I lived on site, so definitely ran into and physically contacted a lot of the biodiversity myself, and the experience was incredible. It was a learning experience that obviously all of my vintages are learning experiences, but this one was one that I was really looking forward to. Being part of this movement of working with grapes that are indigenous is quite special. I know there's a lot of validity to the varietals that are already produced in the world, but there's something really special about finding these little niche places that have fruit that dates back to however long ago, and families that were growing these grapes and making wine from these grapes that, it's not Chardonnay, it's not Pinot Grigio, it's not these wines that we know of, and not that those wines are bad, but it's another addition to the complexity and the diversity of wine, and I'm infatuated with that. I love that. It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about wine. Obviously, I keep doing vintages all around the world, so to be part of this movement and this community in Italy, specifically in the south of Italy here, where we're rediscovering these varietals and these pieces of history, and giving them light and giving them the opportunity to shine is amazing. Obviously, working with Maturano has been quite an interesting experience. Maturano is not a grape that I've worked with before, obviously, and it's got its own particularities that were really fun during vintage. Maturano is an interesting grape varietal. This 2019, this is a Nostalgia, which is a line of wines that Ciacca we make. Probably maybe our most well-known in the winery in terms of winemaking. The 2019 vintage, we did some destemmed, some whole bunch in the press. In the winery, this wine is made, picked out in the field during the day, pressed the same day. We do a mix of destemmed and whole bunch, just to get that. That was 2019. We're always learning about this wine, so we've tweaked it since then. But 2019 was a mix of destemmed and whole bunch. It's fermented in concrete tanks. They're concrete tulips. They're very interesting to work with, but have a level of microoxygenation that I really enjoy in terms of how it affects the wine. Fermentation is all natural. All our fermentations are natural. It's a very, I don't want to say hands-off because it's natural, because we're obviously tasting and analyzing the wines all the time, but there's no, it's a natural wine, so we're not adding nutrients or anything of the sort. So sometimes the ferments hiccup, or sometimes they, but it's the yeast diversity that we have here seem to be doing very well. And just to put that in perspective, for this year, our fermentations are doing fantastic. Slow, as is normal with the natural ferment, but consistent, moving, and they're on the way to the finish line as we speak, which is cool. From this 2019 vintage we have here, again, some whole bunch, some destemmed in the press, fermented in concrete, and now put in bottle. Now we're aged 5 years later. The aromatic intensity of these wines is incredible. It's definitely an aromatic varietal. Think of the intensity of Viognier or Marsanne or something in that realm. But it's orange blossom. It's incredibly floral. Orange blossom, chamomile on those notes, and the fruit behind is quite succulent. It's almost like sweet pear and sweet ripe peach. It's quite interesting, and the palate is quite persistent. It's a lengthy wine, which is quite nice. But it has obviously our acids are quite interesting, but our acids allow for the wine to age quite nicely, which is good. We have a fun pH acid discrepancy for all of the enologists out there. But in the finished wine, the acids really allow it to age, which is quite nice. And I think after some time, for example, this 2019, after 5 years, it's really showing quite well where the balance of some of the phenolics that we get from long pressing is really balancing with the fruit and the aromatics now coming out. One of the things that we really tweaked with this year is not being afraid for winemaking, is not being afraid to go after an old world style winemaking technique. Doing a little bit of oxidative winemaking practices, it has the aromatic intensity and the aromatic complexity to handle that. And we were hesitant right away, but especially after tasting these wines, it's really something to see. That those floral notes, those really ripe fruit notes, they really profit from time in the bottle and a little bit of oxidative handling in the winery. The importance of natural wine, organic wine, low intervention wine. We have lots of names for these types of things that we're doing. There's all sorts of names. But why is it important? And is it important that we do one versus the other and all of that stuff? I think that the important thing is that we think about sustainability in terms of, for several factors. One, just based on who's drinking our wine and how we're drinking our wine. I think it's important that people drink natural wine, people drink organic wine, agriculturally sustainable, all these things. And I don't believe that one is necessarily better than the other. But I think it's the idea that we're coming together as a winemaking community, an international winemaking community, to see how we can make ourselves better, to be able to continue to make wine for generations to come. And I think we're learning slowly that how we treat the land, how we treat where we grow our grapes is quite important. Look, there's nothing natural about planting 100 grapevines in a straight line. But what we can do is we can encourage our vineyards and our lands to be as inclusive as possible, as biodiverse as possible. And like that, I think we can really show how humans can interact with the environment in a positive way. And when we do things like that here at Ciacca, it's important that people drink these organic wines, because there are plenty of wines around the world that are not organic, and that and they have their place as well. But if we can spend some time and some effort and some money to go after some of these organic wines, I think that we can start to change how we look at quality and how we look at what we're putting in our bodies as well. There's a trend out there where people are drinking, consuming less alcohol, drinking less. Maybe what we need to try and think about is yeah, maybe we're drinking less, but we're drinking better. And if we're buying wines and drinking wines that are made from grapes and vineyards that we know are being well looked after and we know are being taken care of, then I think it can go a long ways to making sure that we have wines, and great wines, for generations. I'm Josh Haas, and I'm a traveling enologist drinking Maturano here at Ciacca winery in Val di Comino. After a successful vintage, I hope that we're all drinking 2024 Maturano from Ciacca that I was incredibly honored to help make, put in our blood, sweat, and tears to make it a great wine. So hats off to that. Cheers.